Southeast Asia is witnessing a remarkable growth and boom, and we can see that Malaysia positioned itself as a top player within Southeast Asia in the digital economy. And with Blackboard research here with the topic of grasping the e-commerce opportunity in Southeast Asia has highlighted Malaysia's strategic edge, including the growth potential and what kind of, we can say, private and public partnership to advance the digital economy. And first, as we can see from the report and data itself, how can we say the expert perception of regional leadership in e-commerce? And we can see that Malaysia is quickly rising as a top player within the e-commerce, with the ranking of second, alongside with our country neighbor is Thailand, Indonesia. We can see as Singapore is a #1 factor. And do the expert from this report mentioned that one of the ranking second in e-commerce alongside Indonesia and Thailand, Malaysia, due to reason of very strategic location, including strong infrastructure and the growing market. However, Singapore leads with 59 experts are citing that they have advanced infrastructure and even solid government support. Next, from this ranking Malaysia on aspect of e-commerce performance, we are seeing, are we better than Southeast Asia country, or on the same level or worse than other Southeast Asia countries? First, the Malaysia's policy environment in terms of supporting the e-commerce sector. From this ranking, we can see that Malaysian policy environment is on the rate of citing 14 by the experts, saying that we have the same level as other Southeast Asian countries in terms of policy environment. And the second, how is the Malaysia's approach to innovation and workforce upskilling for e-commerce? Apparently, we can see that many experts are saying on the ranking of 8 that a Malaysian approach on innovation workforce is almost as the same as Southeast Asia countries. And third one, we can say Malaysia's infrastructure, logistics and supply chain network in supporting the growth of e-commerce sector. We can see from this almost the same, that 7 expert ranking that this components Malaysia is better than other Southeast Asia country, but a little bit higher ranking with 8 are citing that experts saying that Malaysia's infrastructure is almost the same as Southeast Asia countries. Next, we want to take a look at the glance how Malaysia's perceived strengths and weaknesses. We can see from here the strength that Malaysia have with high digital penetration and young tech-savvy population. Second, advanced infrastructure and logistics, with the third one, advanced infrastructure and logistics, and the fourth one, strong government support and initiative. And this is one of the strengths that Malaysia have within the e-commerce sector. As for weaknesses, we also have 4 points here, with first, logistic challenges and high fulfillment costs. Second, digital infrastructure and connectivity gaps. And third one, digital infrastructure and connectivity gaps with limited market size and economic constraint. This is how can we see Malaysia's level for now between, or we can see comparison with Southeast Asia countries. And with what that has been said, Deputy Communication Ministry Teo Nei Ching stated in October 2024 that Malaysia's courier and parcel market is expected to reach 7.1 billion ringgit, driven by infrastructure improvement. And she encouraged that the businesses, and we can say every stakeholders, capitalize on the government initiative and maybe contribute more on the digital infrastructure. While growth is promising, it's crucial to evaluate whether all of this is benefiting various sectors and industry. Are the government policy and digital infrastructure is enough to support the e-commerce industry? And for that, I welcome you, our guest. Ready with me on the set is Lin Zheng, the CEO of Ninja Van Malaysia. I want to say thank you very much for joining me. That is a little bit of reports, data from the Blackboard research to see a comparison. How is positioned Malaysia between other countries in the Southeast Asia country? But from the Ninja Van logistic perspective, maybe you can share with us, how does Malaysia's logistic infrastructure compare to that regional competitors such as Singapore and Thailand, especially in terms of efficiency and scalability?
So, okay, if you first of all, thank you for inviting me for this program. So just on your question is on how's the logistics sector for Singapore, Malaysia and Thailand. So if you compare with Singapore, it's actually Singapore is a very small island state. So it's like maybe about half or one-third the size of Klang Valley, So in terms of logistic connectivity, it's quite straightforward. It's like anything you can achieve in like a day or even half a day. So in terms of logistic connectivity, is something that is quite they're definitely easier to serve than Malaysia. As for Thailand, Thailand is a whole land mass. I think with a few islands. So the road connectivity, I think, is still pretty good. So they can reach most places in a day or in about a day. So I think the challenge for Malaysia really is more of the connectivity within West Malaysia and East Malaysia. So within West Malaysia, it's very well connected. You can go from a place to place in a day. There's no issue. I think the challenge is on the East Malaysia side, where East Malaysia is about 60% of Malaysia's landmass, but only about very much lower proportion of I think only about 12% of population in East Malaysia, and the population is quite well dispersed across multiple cities, and there's a lot of very rural areas of East Malaysia. So if you are really comparing as a whole, it's a bit harder to serve parts of East Malaysia, but West Malaysia, definitely we are on par with all the other peers in the market.
All right, this is, we can see the situation within the East and West Malaysia in terms of logistic infrastructure. But we can say, in what ways does Malaysia's geographic location serve as a key advantage for expanding e-commerce logistic, particularly for regional trade? So
Malaysia, where Malaysia is situated is really right in the middle of like the trade lanes where all the shipping lines go. Like the Strait of Malacca is one of the busiest trade lanes, right? So it's very well positioned for a lot of sea freight coming from especially high big manufacturing base in China, growing like in Vietnam and so on. So it's a quite a central spot for transshipment. So we have goods coming into Malaysia through Port Klang. And then we have free trade zone in Port Klang area, also at the KLIA area. From there, we have customers that actually move goods into Malaysia, and they actually fulfill their goods through Malaysia and send across Southeast Asia, because of the good connectivity of ports, very good connectivity of airports. I think we have very good connection throughout of Southeast Asia. So if you want to have very good overnight service to most Southeast Asian countries, most Southeast Asian cities, I think we are able to do that through the strong network of Malaysia's aviation sector.
And there's a lot of factors to boost this logistics sector.
Yes.
Taking a look at the policies, Malaysia's logistic policies, is it attractive or competitive enough for global player to participate?
So we do have some engagement with MIDA. I think they do have a lot of incentives to bring in, to attract more companies coming in. So recently we had an event last week with them. They were sharing about a lot of initiative of the Smart Warehouse 4.0. They have very good incentive if you want to do smart warehousing, cold chain logistics, among multiple things. So I think generally it's quite attractive. We do hear from the event I had attended last week, we do hear a lot more companies actually attracted to move to Malaysia to set up as a regional hub here and use it as a base to distribute across Southeast Asia and even to some extent Asia Pacific.
And talking about this improvement and this initiative to boost the logistics sector, I want to take or dive deeper within the logistic challenges and innovation. What are the main logistical bottlenecks within Malaysia from previously, I think, before pandemic COVID-19 and after pandemic COVID-19? What are some of the challenges that we can compare?
I would say at the start of the pandemic, the capacity of the industry is not as is lower, but with the pandemic-induced demand impact, it forces a lot of players to scale up very rapidly to adhere to the demand. So right now, I think we are at a point where the pandemic-induced demand has tapered down a bit, and people are going back to retail and so on. So in the last 1 or 2 years, there's actually overcapacity in the market in terms of in the third-party logistics space. There's an overcapacity, so now it's really most of the with overcapacity, there's like competition and so on. So with that, I believe especially for in the logistics sector, the capacity is there. The bottleneck is definitely reduced. But I think the problem still persists between West to East Malaysia.
Okay.
Because I think the expectation, I think even in research they cite, when I read through the research paper, they also cite about logistic costs between West to East Malaysia. So the fact that if you want things as fast as you get in West Malaysia, you need to air freight things over. When you add things into the air freight component, it definitely costs more. And with air freight, depending on the schedule, during festive season and so on, a lot of people traveling, because sometimes we use passenger planes to fly goods over to East Malaysia. So in that sense, sometimes certain fluctuations will have an impact on the lead time, and that's a bit unavoidable, because if you look at the most, in logistics about economies of scale. So if there's scale in West Malaysia, things can be delivered very fast. But in East Malaysia, if the demand is not concentrated area where it makes sense to move the goods over there early to fulfill, so definitely it has to come from West or even from other parts of the world. So I think with the advent of technology, AI and so on, there's an opportunity where we look at what are the hot items that East Malaysians would like to buy from various areas. They can store it at forward warehouses in East Malaysia, and that can reduce the lead time a fair bit. But I think that requires partnership between different parties, from the platforms, from all the e-commerce players, maybe some government initiative to attract them to set up things. So what I understand, there are some talks there in the way, but I'm not exactly sure what are any concrete plans at the moment.
Do technology in AI can reduce the high logistic costs and improve delivery? Because we know that adapting technology in AI, we will need also costs on that. Maybe what's your take on this?
So it's really about what's the cost-benefit analysis, right? So if the AI cost is, AI make on the ticket size might cost a bit to get the technology, but if the savings pays for it, then definitely it is worthwhile for AI. And the thing is, for certain AI optimization, could be just a one-off. So for example, like a routing of your line haul networks and so on, you just have to do a periodical review, and then that helps to optimize your routes. You save on fuel, you utilize less trucks, so you also save on the environment side as well.
Can you share some of the successful example of how innovative logistic solution that has been implemented within the Malaysian context?
So I think it really, you mean over the years?
Over the years, correct.
So I think if you look way back, right, first it's about tracking.
Okay.
Like now it's like a given, where most of the 3PLs have very good tracking. But what we also see is that in this component is also something that is lacking on the B2B space as well. So that's something that, like for Ninja Van, we are going into this space where we help to digitalize the areas that previously were not using the technology that we have developed for the B2C. We adapt it to help with B2B businesses. And then with our network, so for example, one of the innovative thing that we did was we were to inject more B2B parcel into our courier network, where they used to use transport. We have like coffee powder chains and so on. They used to use transporter that they have irregular schedules. So maybe they go once a week, then certain areas they don't cover, or they only go over time. So we were able to innovate to say that, okay, you give it to me regardless of place, you don't give me any MOQ, I can deliver to you in 2 days. So that helps. For example, one of our customer, Astro, they were able to meet the SLA from the customers, because sometimes like the PO validity is very short. If they use the traditional method, they might miss, and they miss out on sales. So that's how we were able to sort of marriage both our B2C technology into a B2B space to help them navigate this part and improve the service levels.
Other than innovative logistic solution that has been implemented, the Blackboard research also mentioned that we need to take a look on the private-public partnership to advance the digital economy, and within this context is the logistics sector. How would you assess the effectiveness of private-public partnerships in enhancing logistic infrastructure for e-commerce growth currently?
I would say right now the infrastructure for domestic logistics, I believe the infrastructure is there and is working pretty well. But I think what in the research really is talking about more of maybe a bit more of the innovative solutions that you see in other countries, maybe like in the western parts of the world and so on. So maybe one example could be like adoption of like Pudo pickup drop-off network for returns, for collections. So this is very big in China. It's very big in western part of the world. But I think in Malaysia, it's still something that is still in a very nascent space, which is what we are working very closely with MCMC and other courier partners to see how we can do more of that. Because if we are able to utilize more of the out-of-home network, it reduces a lot of carbon footprint, and it also gives a lot of convenience to customers with lower cost as well. We can able to be more innovative. So for example, like if you are a fashion brand that you want to sell product that you want returns, but if the return is cost very high, your price goes up. Then you cannot fight with certain players that ship from overseas that can produce at a very low cost. So if we are able to work together with the government to say we try to promote more of this demand in the Pudo space, we can actually innovate product that cost lower and get them to allow them to offer price at a more competitive rate, and then they can win that market.
And we are number 2 ranking by experts are saying that because of our infrastructure, strategic locations, but Singapore is number 1. What can some of the key components or critical, we can say, their strength that we can learn and adapt within the Malaysian context, especially from the advanced infrastructure and support from the government?
So on what you call advanced, what I felt is really on Singapore's side, there's a bit more focus on certain higher value products.
Okay.
That they are doing. That is, if you compare scale, definitely Malaysia's scale is much higher. The cost is also lower. But in terms of being specialized, the specialized needs and high value items are the one that probably Singapore is getting more of that, because as a regional hub for maybe many companies, as like APEC HQ and so on, a lot of the higher value goods goes through there, and from there it gets transported out of Singapore. But I believe that's something I see our Prime Minister and our team has been actively chasing more of these companies. So I believe it's really more of getting them to come in and sell a base here. I believe the opinions has been changing over the past couple of years. A lot of players are actually looking into moving to Malaysia from Singapore because of the high cost. And the reason why Singapore is able to be more innovative and invest more in automation, because the cost is high. So the payback for automation is a lot lower. Versus in Malaysia, I think generally the cost of labor and workforce is still relatively lower. So the incentive to go into automation is maybe not as high. But I see that changing a fair bit. I think for us in Ninja Van, we also invested in our automation facilities about 3 years back, because we foresee that like at a certain scale, you still need machinery, no matter what's the cost of labor. And also in the past couple of years, we see minimum wage increasing, and that's actually quite an impetus I see for businesses to say that, okay, let's rely less on manual labor, let's look at more automation. I think that's all in line with the plan for Malaysia to be like a higher income economy, right? Going to the higher value chain.
Other than government initiatives on technological advancement, what some of the we can see ways or strategy for logistic companies in Malaysia to invest more automations and technology to streamline the operations and reduce operational costs?
You mean what's the more opportunities?
What kind of strategies that we can encourage for logistic companies to adopt more automation and technologies to boost their operational and manage cost efficiency?
So I think, okay, you say on top of government initiative, I think like I mentioned earlier, is really the cost impetus will be a big one for them that they will do that. I think the other part is really on how, if they can see the impact of what digitalization can bring to the business, I think they will be more they will be inclined to innovate. It's really more of competition, right? If more players are trying to do more innovative stuff, everyone have to follow through to meet what the market expectation is. Like I mentioned earlier, like maybe years back, tracking is innovative, but now if you just saying I offer tracking, people just like, yeah, everyone does it. It's the same. So it's really more of how logistic player can slowly push the envelope, and then when players lead, the rest will follow along, and then that will drive more innovation within the space.
We must put focus on the level playing field for all the players within the e-commerce, and then we can say that what are some of the technological innovation in logistics that can address challenges in the future, such as high import taxes? We can see the revolution of taxes currently with invoice and current fluctuations and courier changes in the future.
So I think that part is the part on optimizing import tax. All this is actually quite is a very complicated question. Like there's a lot of like policies, everything. Also like even things like the implementation of SST versus GST also plays a part in how they structure the how the tax. Because like if goods they are bringing to Malaysia, that if so, I think with all this, it's really of the growth of like more free trade zones. Like I think the whole Singapore JB Special Economic Zone is something that could help address that part also. With a bit more free trade zone, I think with the technology AI side, you can able to automate the calculation of certain taxes and how to optimize the flow of goods and services in order to reduce the tax component and also to simplify for customers. So I mean, I have one personal example, right? Like I ordered something online and it was more than 500, and then it was told me like, okay, it's stuck at customs. You have to contact customs to get it cleared. But then like there's no way. It's very hard to figure out. There's like no proper way and so on, right? Like you have to find a way to contact someone. So in the future, right, with all this that is being aligned, everything should be borne by the provider, everything should be seamless, and that should be the way that most customers should experience the logistics services.
And I understand that Ninja Van Malaysia has just launched the e-guide title From Malaysia to Southeast Asia, a practical guide for e-commerce small and medium-sized enterprise SMEs spending beyond borders. How can we see this very positive initiative in boosting the logistical ecosystem with this guide?
So what we see is that there's a lot of demand for goods from Malaysia, and it's across all the Southeast Asian country. I think Malaysia being one of the top where most people will consider. I think that of course the biggest market is still Singapore. I think we do have a lot of Singapore customers that's ordering from here. So I think with the even of the cross-border logistics that we have, it's really a good opportunity for Malaysian businesses to look at how they can expand abroad with the use of this cross-border logistics. Because now it has been simplified to the manner that you can just pass the goods to us. We can just send directly to the recipient. We can settle all the taxes, even collect the cash if required, and then we remit the money back to the Malaysian businesses. So because in the white paper we talk about different stages, different options where you can do to expand the business. But what we believe is that if you use the cross-border logistics, it's the most efficient way for you to enter a new market, because you don't have to set up a warehouse, you don't have to deal with a lot of these complex things for a start. You test the market, you go into the new market, you maybe get a marketer to help you, or you set up a small team there. Well, once you see the product market fit, then you can consider your next stage of growth. Because we do have presence across all Southeast Asian markets. For example, let's say if you want to enter the Philippines, we have like our fulfillment service in Philippines and delivery. So if you expand to a size that you feel like it makes sense for me to establish a bigger presence there, we can do the movement of goods cross-border to Philippines, set up a warehouse for you, and do all the back-end stuff, and vice versa for Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore as well.
What's some of the sustainability approach in terms of logistics sector that we can learn from other countries apart from ASEAN, that maybe we can learn from advanced economies because they have more resources, they have more funding to boom their logistics sector? Maybe can share some of the examples of experience from Ninja Van.
So from what we see in the market, I think there's two areas. One is on EV vehicles, in particular three-wheel vehicles. I think that's a vehicle type that is currently absent in Malaysia, because I think there's a lot of approvals required. But if you look at in China, it's everywhere. Like you see, like all the three-wheel vehicles that they can put bigger size parcels inside. Wow. So those are actually very efficient. They have charging points like just right outside where their shop lot is. They can charge, can deliver very, very fast, and then it's a very efficient use of vehicle type. And the second one, as mentioned earlier, is the usage of Pudo points. So if, like in China during 11/11, everyone will like go to a spot to like pick up the parcel and so on. So I think this is really something is in future with the adoption of Pudo in the logistics sector. We do see that there's a lot more other things we can do along with the Pudo with the effort of more adoption of Pudo services. And
we can say that this year Malaysia is the chairman of ASEAN 2025. Probably from other neighbouring countries will do more delivery. And then what is Ninja Van preparation moving forward?
Yeah, so for us really is we want to connect businesses across Southeast Asia. So we have a full suite of services that connects all the way from cross-border warehousing to delivery to consumer delivery to businesses, and we also do distribution as well. Right now we do distribution for many FMCG brands, to mom and pop stores, to even to modern trade stores as well. So for us, we see that our role here is really to help businesses to expand beyond Southeast Asia, not just on e-commerce, also on B2B, also on retail distribution as well. That's where we do a fair bit there. We are looking at bringing some brands from Malaysia into Vietnam, because that's where we also have presence in retail distribution there as well.
All right, again, I would say thank you very much for helping us understand the logistics sector, what are the challenges and the opportunities that we can take moving forward. And definitely it's not easy talking about logistics, and we hope in the future maybe Malaysia can be alongside Singapore within the e-commerce sector. And again, I say thank you very much to Lin Zheng, the CEO of Ninja Van Malaysia, and definitely all of our discussion here will be featured in AstroAwani.com and across all social media platforms.